My story tonight starts with two iconic Seattle companies. The first was founded 40 years ago by a college student. So he saw this magazine and he fell in love with the computer on the cover. If you don't recognize it, it's the Altair 8800. You recognize it? Yeah. Most of us didn't. It was the first personal computer. It didn't have a screen or a keyboard. You just flipped the switches on the front and it would tell you what was going on with the lights on top. That primitive. So this kid, he's in college and he sees this and he knows exactly what it needs, which is a programming language, right? He was right. He wrote the language, he sold it to this company, he made some money. But he made some real money when he started writing operating systems, right? Real money to the point that when he stepped down as CEO, Microsoft was the most valuable company in the history of mankind, right? Plenty of money. This company to date has sold products to over 5 billion people on this planet. Pretty amazing. Now, company number 2 is only 15 years old. And in 15 years, they have sold nothing. They have no customers, no products, no revenues. And this is despite the fact that it too was started by a college dropout. Right? It's of course the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Right? The world's largest foundation ever, the world's largest charity. You know what makes it the world's largest? $60 billion in assets. 60 billion with a B. That's a lot of money. That's country scale money. $60 billion is the GDP of Luxembourg in Europe. That's a Seattle-sized country. $60 billion is the GDP of Kenya. Kenya has 44 million citizens. $60 billion is big, but big is relative. Because if you look at Microsoft, last year they earned in revenue $86 billion, and they are worth $400 billion today. So Bill Gates for-profit, and Bill Gates nonprofit. 7-fold difference in value. And that is why I'm telling this story today. So I've heard for years now that the for-profit sector is bigger than the nonprofit sector, but no one ever told me what bigger is. No one ever defined that in scale numbers. So I took a look at the numbers. This was interesting, but it's not the whole story. Let's step back to tell the rest of the story. Let's look at the top 100 largest public companies, right? These are for-profit companies. And the 100 largest charities and foundations. You actually know a lot of these. I was surprised at how many I recognize because I listen to NPR and I watch PBS. They're the sponsors. This is the Rockefeller Foundation and the Kellogg Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, and the Robert T. Wood Johnson Foundation, and so forth. All right, their sum total, their net worth, their assets total $300 billion. An enormous sum of money until you look and see it's 3/4 the size of one public company, Microsoft. When we add in the other 99 public companies, that result is truly staggering. It is $15 trillion, 15,000 billion dollars. It didn't fit on the chart, but that's not the whole chart. If we could draw the top of that bar, the top would be 25 floors up. It's a 4-floor building. All right, so for-profits, nonprofits, but that's not the whole story either, because those nonprofits don't give away $300 billion a year. That's their endowment. That's the amount of money they have. Each year they give away less than 7%. Last year that number was $20 billion. $20 billion, right? Anything $1 billion is a lot of money. I'll give them that. But while we look to that sector, the for-profit sector, to make more money and grow and whatnot, we looked at the nonprofit sector of the world to solve the problems of the world, to deal with global health and global poverty and global hunger, right? Their budget to do that is $20 billion, right? And of course, there's some more charities and whatnot, but the main chunk is $20 billion, and that is simply not enough. It's not enough when you note that half the world is poor. Half the world lives on less than $2.50 a day. So let's do a little bit of math. $20 billion divided by 3.5 billion people is $5.70 per year. That's it. That's the budget to do good And just to be clear, if that's all that these charities did, we wouldn't know about them on PBS because they're spending money there too, right? But if they did, that would be their budget, which we know is not enough to buy a clean burning stove for the people who need it. It's not enough to buy a solar lantern for the people who need it. It's certainly not enough to feed them. It's not enough to send their kids to school. It's not enough money. And most importantly, it is not enough money to send the foundations out to the field to ask them what they need so we don't waste this precious resource of $20 billion. Now, I've told this to friends before, and this is the point where they say, wait, Looney, you forgot the third sector. There's government too, right? Government does good in the world, and this is when I say, yeah, they try and do good in the world. So what's their budget? I looked it up. It's complicated. But in this country, the humanitarian aid, the humanitarian foreign aid is funneled through USAID or USAID. Right? Their budget last year was $24 billion. So that's awesome. That's $44 billion for good in the world, which is still not enough to buy that stove or that lantern or get out in the world and find out what they need. Right, so put all the numbers aside, and this conclusion here, what you see here is just staggering to me, is that the for-profits are the sector that have pretty much all the money and all the power. So if we're going to solve the problems of the world, if we're going to actually end global hunger and global poverty and cure global health issues, most of that's going to have to come from the for-profit sector because that's just where the money is. Right? And no, it's not going to be Coca-Cola. I don't think Coca-Cola is going to solve global hunger. I don't think Bank of America is going to solve global poverty. They can't even deal with the poor people in this country. It's going to be new companies. Companies that, what we used to say is do good and do business. What we're going to hear tonight is really simple. Companies that bring products to market that people need, where some of those people or most of those people just happen to be poor. Because if you can save those 3.5 billion people $1, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of savings for them. Right? And saving $250, you've saved them a day's income. $250 times $3.5 billion is billions of dollars. That puts you on that list of 100 biggest companies in the world. All right, so tonight you're going to hear stories from 5 African entrepreneurs solving problems in Africa with African companies. Something we haven't seen on this stage before. And you're also going to hear a story from an Argentinian entrepreneur who's solving a problem that should have been solved decades and decades ago. He's going to solve a problem that afflicts his country, afflicts our country, afflicts every human being on the planet. Right? That's enough for me. It is my pleasure to give you the Fledge 6 fledgling.